Alright, in a previous video I gave you an introduction to my large aquarium setup. Here we're going to talk about my smaller setup. This aquarium stand that you see here I built about 30 years ago. I don't remember exactly, to tell you the truth. When I was living in upstate New York, I did some woodworking. I built a dresser, which you can kind of see in my previous video in the out of the corner. I built a bookshelf, which I have not shown yet, and this aquarium stand, and also a baby crib. Anyway, this is my smaller setup. This is a 29.
All right, my previous segment, my microphone battery was dying, and so I'm gonna have to clip off some of that. You can see underneath the stand, I have this 5.5 gallon tank that I've pulled out in a pickle jar. So for this segment, I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna be doing here. So the 5.5 gallon aquarium here. I'll scoot this over. Okay, this is going to be our sump. So for this 29-gallon aquarium, I purchased a small overflow box. It's pretty nice, but it does use the old school YouTube. So that's going to you have to get that siphon started. This is going to go on the back of the 29-gallon tank in the center. On the output, I'm going to tee it because from this overflow, this 29 gallon tank, just like on my other video, my 40 long, is going to only have the overflow. It's the only thing that's going to be in the tank. No heater cords, no power head cords, no, this is it. Water is, well, there will have to be return water, right? From a sump filter, you take the water out with the overflow, and then it needs to return. So there's going to have to be a pump in here. And I have one idea I'm going to try. It probably sounds crazy. I'll have to make a separate segment and stitch that segment onto the whole video. So we'll do that last for the return, how that's going to work. But that overflow box is going to feed two things. It's going to feed the sump filter, but it's also going to feed this crazy device. What this is going to be is an evaporator. So instead of doing water changes on this system, it's only going to be some of the overflow going in through this. Now, what I've got here is a screen filter because the screen filter is because this is going to use a float switch. This float switch, when the water goes up, it cuts it off. It's going to keep the pickle jar from overflowing. And then as the water evaporates, the float switch drops and some of the overflow will fill it back up. It's going to be an evaporator system. Now, in order to enhance, I use the Gemini AI, Google's Gemini AI, and of course it's into all this crap. Not that it's real, but it did all these calculations, and I kept telling it, oh, I'm going to do this and that. It calculated we could evaporate a gallon a day. So a 1 gallon a day water change on a 29 gallon plus, the sump's got a couple gallons. Let's just call it, and obviously you don't fill it quite to the top. I don't know, 30 gallons just for easy math, even though that's probably a little high. So a 1 gallon a day water change for a month, that's equal to 100% water change, uh, or 100%, right, for a whole month. So if you did 50% water changes every 2 weeks, it'd be the equivalent, right? So that's how we're going to get rid of the bad stuff. Obviously, going to have to add water. That's a separate conversation. So just a couple details I wanted to get on the video. This pickle jar has a concave bottom, probably a little bit hard to tell, but it has a concave bottom. Now, if you know anything about heat transfer, this heating pad, this reptile heating pad, you're not going to get super great heat transfer if you have an air gap in that concave area. Now, this heating pad is a little bit flexible, but I'm just experimenting here. Remember, this is not advice for beginners. This is just me trying goofy ideas as an experiment because I want to. So I'm a computer guy too. I'm gonna get, I ordered some silicone heat transfer padding that you use in a computer, like for a GPU heatsink or a SSD heatsink. I got some pads of that. It was relatively inexpensive. I was a little surprised. I'm going to fill in this bottom with that, and the Gemini AI included that in its calculations. It's going to enhance the heat transfer quite a bit. This is only an 8-watt heating pad, and the AI was like, "Ooh, that's pretty small. You're not going to get a lot." But with all these enhancements, we're going to maybe get up to a gallon a day evaporation. We'll see. So that's going to be better heat transfer by doing that way. And wait, there's more. Air pump. Air pump with an air stone. We're going to aerate that water with this tiny air pump. The blow air down in there into the air stone, and that aeration of that water in the pickle jar is also going to enhance the evaporation. And another thing that I ordered that's on the way, a fan. So the AI is talking about the humidity level. What did it say? An evaporation zone? I don't know, something. I'm going to mount a small computer fan up underneath there above this to keep the air moving away so that the evaporation is also enhanced. I think that's it for that element. Let's talk about the sump for a minute. Uh, Real quick, heater, just like on my larger setup, I'm going to have the heater in the sump. So this little bitty 50-watt heater is going to be in the sump to provide heating. Scoot this over. Put this in. Okay, so how's this going to work? I'll set the heater out of the way. I'm going to do something, again, experimental. Call me crazy, call me rage bait, whatever. Under gravel filter, pretty standard. It's modular, so it will fit in the bottom of here. But I'm not going to fill this with gravel. I'm not going to use that substrate that you may have seen my substrate video. This is going to move water around some filter media. How am I going to move the water? Power head. The smallest power head I can find is actually, you can get a little bit smaller ones dimensionally, like a little bit um, narrower this way. Doesn't have the same inlet, and it has a higher flow rate. I want this to be a low flow rate, even though it's in my filter. So it's going to sit here as high as it can. So it's obviously going to be a fairly uh, low water level in the sump, around maybe half to 2/3. I have to cut this uplift tube, obviously, set that in there. So filter media. What do we have for filter media? I got these. Oh, got these 3 plastic food grade. These are food safe, so should be safe in the aquarium. Got 3 of these. They're going to set in here like this. They fit. I wouldn't say perfect. They fit well for this concept. So they're going to be in this shape. And each of them, the center one, I got this stuff. This is the high-end stuff, or relatively high-end. This was like 25 bucks. Uh, Seemed like a good idea this time. Looks like it'll just about fill this. So this one's going to be full of this buy home aquarium filter media. This is like one of the fancy schmancy glass, ceramic, you know, lots of surface area for bacteria to grow. So that's going to be in one of them. And then I got some cheaper stuff for the other two. Got two of these little balls. These are sort of the same thing. They're ceramic. What does it say on it? Quartz balls. So again, surface area for bacteria. One of these will go in each of the side baskets. You can have three baskets of this, relatively high-end type filter media. So those will sit around there. Um, the heater's got to go down in this space. The discharge pump that I'm going to use to pump it from the sump back into the tank will have to fit down there. So it's a little bit tight. What I'm going to do, I got three levels of these foam pads, and they're coarse, medium, and fine. I think blue is the finest. So what I'm going to do is cut these to fit down in here around there and fill up this void space. Once I get everything in there, fill up the void space lowest with the fine, the green. The green is the medium, and then on top the black with the black foam. So obviously the overflow discharge is going to come down here onto the top. I did order like a spray bar. It's obviously not going to be enough volume for spray. I'm thinking about ways to diffuse, deflect, to kind of get that water to spread around a little bit. It's a work in progress and it's an experiment. So it may be a bad idea. It might work just fine. Anyway, this is the self-contained little sump filter. The power head's going to power it. That's going to circulate the water. The overflow box is going to drain the water down into here. The pump that I have, uh, I don't want to have to stitch another video, so I'll have to show that in a separate video. But I'm going to try, it's an automatic top-off tank with an optical sensor. I'm going to try that first. It, uh, it pumps, it says 78 gallons per hour. You say, oh, that's not enough flow. 78, you got a 29-gallon tank, that's only 2.5 times. But again, these are supposed to be low flow. Plus, it pumped pretty good. It goes up to like an 8-foot head. I used it to fill up the other aquarium over there. Put some water in it, not fill it up. Uh, it does pretty good, and 78 gallons, if it really does that, that you know that's over what 12 times what this 5.5 gallon aquarium holds as the sump. It's a very small sump. It's kind of on the small side. It's going to be delicate balance. Um, that's why I have the check valve or the float valve on the evaporator. I have another check float valve. They came in a pair. I might put it on the overflow into here too. Put one in here, although I'm kind of out of room. So I'm gonna try it without it and see how it goes. If I end up with a flood, I'll make a flood video. That'll be fun. So what I did is I bought called an automatic top off system. Consists of this quite small pump. It's only like it said 78 gallons per hour. Pretty small. Has a check valve. Not sure how effective that is, but no harm in trying to use it. But this little thing, I'm curious what kind of pump it is. It's very quiet. It doesn't seem like it's big enough to be a centrifugal pump, and it generates like 8-foot head. You can, pump water up to 8 feet, which makes sense for this kind of system. You don't need high flow rate. You just need to get the water back up there. So I think this is a different, plus the small size. I don't think this uses an impeller. Um, Kind of curious what type of pump it is. But this is going to go into the sump down there at the bottom, right It'll fit nicely right in the back there. And that's going to pump the water from the sump back into the tank. Has a hose, it has a clamp thing. This clamp is too small for a rim tank, a tank with a frame. So I'm going to have some other solutions for that. But the other part of this is, well, uh, most return pumps from sumps just pump, and then you have to balance out the system. This automatic top-off system includes a sensor. So it's a laser sensor to measure the water level. I think you can see it right here. It has a magnet. So it sticks on the tank per se. You can move the magnet. You can set the level. You can move it up and down and set it wherever you want that to cut the pump off. That pump will cut off when it reaches the top. If I set this up at the top and my overflow is slightly below, it's going to run continuously. Now, that is a question. What is the life going to be for this pump? They're designed to top off water, right? That means they're probably not actually rated for continuous use. So we'll see. Maybe it'll burn out in a month, maybe it won't. But it is nice that it has that extra feature. Now, of course, in most sump systems, you set up the levels where you can't really pump. You set up the flow rate and the levels so that your overflow is always going to protect you from pumping your water, over the top of your tank. But this idea of testing, again, this is experimental. I'm just trying stuff. I'm not telling anybody this is the right way to do it. I'm sure a bunch of people are going to tell me I'm doing it wrong. But with that laser sensor, when it gets up, if it gets up to there, depending on how I have the whole thing balanced out, it'll cut off this pump and it'll stop. So if I were to burn it up in a month, and if I wanted to spend another $40 and try it again, you could set it to where it was lower, where it would cut off more often. I don't know. Experiment. I'm going to play with it. But anyway, that's how the water's going to get out of the sump and back into the main tank.